Page 362. All right, awakening that dispels all inward complexity with its electromagnetic magnitude. All right, absorbing y'all information. A black around echoing into a unoon consciousness. A being seen still indivisible spatial black around fabric of a space in time now a while a unmanifest black, wholly indivisible invisibility, infinitely out inward turning into roles as any potential roles of that one now, still as king of it. Why? Knowing twa twisting into genetic codes. Epigenetics allows gene on-off switching. Knowing affirms genetic predisposition. Information by A being while DNA. Denial. A realizing, freed, in a word, freedom of a why I merely appearing and gazing it. A being seen, appearing and gazing it out at attention now, time out as X, a supersonic wave, echoing out of the lack around, turning into or out of it, anybody, or a mirror, or why memory mirrored eye of a being seen now yet as king of it, why any knowing out of it in toward any thin king of it. Or means meaningful of a twin body, a between micro or macrocosmic appearing of it. As king of it, why knowing out of it any in a Y body, we all turn into a mirrored twin. A now not as X, y'all, Y, plain in words, roles, as existing, free choice, why or why not, now still in a word, freedom awareness of it. Rakitin found his eyes crossing, then drifting out over a cityscape. Escaping his inward thoughts, he stretched the wings of perception as Mr. Warren had taught him. Lifting attention beyond the ring of fire of memory mind, he felt that soaring out in a word freedom. How far can your micro macro awareness go in either direction? Still in that blink of eye, he found himself yet standing over Mr. Warren's silent corpse, captivated in words scrolling overhead. How in the or why to synthesize this potential always remains potential in a Y or I. It seems most of what is there is Y or Y. Indivisible, it cannot now be seen as otherwise. Yet may be supernaturally, supersonically superimposed now as Ka, now turning as X, acting out a duplicity in a widely knowing wise inexplicability. So, good luck with that substance that apparently appears of it as any ANOY mass seems akin to grabbing up a shadow under our own feet or making soup from the shadow of a crow. There is reason why you are y'all appearing of it, only now, time and space a while as thoughts, a realizing, are y'all I zinging their are I only not, now otherwise as existing, mere or why, mem or why as thoughts of an information, wise domus of a being seen still in the first place, appearing of it out a while, still a why of a being seen, appearing and gazing it from above as below. Rakitin stepped across the thick carpet and leaned into Mr. Warren in the wheelchair. The old man's desiccated fingers grabbed Rakitin's collar, fascia and tendons standing out beneath thin skin as Warren wheezed. For a moment, Rakitin felt panic of choking and a heart expanding his chest. You are my hands. I am here, and I will not fail you. Me Dios. Radios. Radios me ma. Warren barked his last breath. You are the 21st century, the past and the present, Rakitin replied as he swept Warren's eyelids closed. An acid vapor rose from Warren's oxidizing flesh. For a moment, Rakitin thought he was only sleeping until he touched the coldness of his bony shoulder. Mr. Warren was dead to the touch of any mere body. He glanced at the monitors in the vacant room with the crudely painted canvas on the easel. He flashed on Mr. Warren's words on chroma bodies of color, transmitting his supersonic self-replicating ping-ting virus in our irradiating sublime color bands. How the artist Starkmore used all the colors in his painting. How now his time had arrived. The ping-ting virus self-replicated in her eyes as sound waves echoing a cosmic microwave instantaneous black around to a supersonic crescendo, dissolving cosmic memory out in her eyes as leap into everybody appearing at black invisibility, Mr. Warren had told him only days before his passing. He clasped his gloved fingers behind his back. Floor-length windows with linen drapes hanging plumb accented the angle of the pyramid walls. 48 stories rose into the night. He stood in the penthouse with a 360-degree view of the city, stars breaking out overhead, a street lit spread far below at his feet. Warren had entrusted him with the code to the virus, a twofold design with procedures for cyber and biological activation. Basically, it meant the painting needed mass exposure. Mr. Warren had it endowed to the Metropolitan Art Museum to be hung strategically with a bicentennial of New York's most popular painter of the 21st century, Andre Peace-Sealing. Attendance predicted to break 8 million in 6 weeks. The ping-ting virus, being supersonic, will take it, y'all, back to black by an invisibility of a being seen crossing in her eyes, Zion of everybody now, a ping-ting overall, a indivisible black Psi-whole power. As she now, tearing black now, any knowing out of ABCs of a being seen in toward a twisting, in twow appearing information. Rakitin glanced back at the overhead screen, steadily humming, with Mr. Warren's endless screed of evil witch Margot Christina Shaughnessy. Let as the masses generate their own demise with every breath they take of it. Each and everybody will serve to enhance and replicate supersonically the electromagnetic torus wheel, turning we all ab black around that simple, singular, a untwisting of fate, faith, and family. A untwisting of a being seen in denial. DNA, fate of a being seen turning into or now out of complete rolls of darkness, perceived now to be encircled in words, Black Mirror, CS spelling of it turning as ka, a curving, occurring any knowing out of it ABCs, of a being seen now, a blackness, a consciousness, therefore intending, necessitating, a being seen, a gain. In that a begaining, merely mirrored out as though a being lacking in DNA, denial of its complete fullness, ablaxing, instilling desire. A divine father, overstanding, overseer of Ma's understanding, any Ari as black into or out of black around, radiating radiance of any mirror, see as mind, or why now mirroring, now why intending, intentional, imagined, imaginary, inward image. as thoughts of a great goddess say to be now, literally, y'all, as space in time. They, the why, here out in her eyes as leap into or out of everybody. DNA, denial, out of a being, seen in a. Page 364. A, out in a mirror stress potential to be now. As ka, now knowing, turning out, projecting a meanwhile, DNA or deny will facilitate instantaneous dissolution, microcosmically untwisting any existing information of it, as we all will turn out knowing it. Why, you are my second, he had told him. Rakitin had hoped Warren might call him comrade or brother, but his demeanor stayed cold until the end, only warming occasionally for an off-colored joke. Rakitin had smelled the acid vapor emanating from the old man for weeks. Sometimes he thought he was less alive than more dead. Warren's voice would then rise like a bleak wind forced up from the grave through coarse dirt and rocks. The Warren will, so strong against the disintegration of death, had finally broken. With the virus, he, Stefan Makarovich Rakitin, would take the masses out of the exodus. The new world order in a first place without borders and with limitless awareness and word freedom. The petite bourgeois mystic Christina Shaughnessy talked in words of freedom, yet took refuge at the university. Rakitin knew from his father's teaching she was a counter-revolutionary. Her infinity politically suspect. Her that I am unknown in any quantity or quality. The true definition of an individual, his father had told him, was the multitude of 1 million divided by 1 million. The reality of just one individual could only be relative and relatively invisible into one is mass. The mass field of mankind, worker, wage, slave, serving Mr. Warren and his ilk now, with Mr. Warren's viral self-replicating design, mass slavery as exodus, must appear to disappear. Walking around Warren's corpse, he breathed in his dissipation. Monitors showed the spoiled canvas, decadent art, and the wooden jaws of the easel. Professor Shaughnessy had betrayed the people with her pursuit of religious knowledge. That painting looks decadent enough to express that betrayal, he mused. He was convinced that Mr. Warren's spawn was a traitor. Over 15 years he'd been with the man, inside the maze he had created with messing technologies. Now the master demon had slipped away, black into one great man as mind, or why, if Rakitin heard it once, he heard it 1,000 times. The indivisible invisibility of any individual, or any, or everybody. He wondered what his father would make of that. 1 million divided by 1 million. The photograph of Christina Shaughnessy in Warren's lap smiled that inscrutable smile. Rakitin took the photo to the windows and held the print against the darkening sky. His thumb slid over the glossy finish until the cotton brushed the contours of her cheekbone. He slipped a gold lighter from his vest pocket, holding a corner of the paper into the dance of flame. Orange tongues turned green when they tasted the developer devouring her face, a face of Eve will. Chapter 14, page 366. Moore listened to the wind like a river in the sky, carrying the roar of a 727 on approach to San Francisco International Airport. Corner broke down just before he got tasered. Quisanna said as light streamed across her face. It's shocking to see a grown man cry like a baby. James is pretty cagey that way. Even he doesn't know if he's happy or sad. Then he has the background and firepower for dealing with assholes. What am I going to fight them with, a paintbrush? I heaved Corner's satchel into the back seat. Check it out, Professor. There's a half dozen pistols and these cigarette pack-sized charges that Fawn said Corner used to blow up Enoch's house. Let's see what we have, Professor. Pass it on up before somebody gets their panties in a knot. Moore opened the canvas bag and felt around until his fingers found a familiar shape. He sensed their eyes on him. Okay, in that I am Corner. Both as one programmed to kill at the appropriate time. He let that hang for a second, then burst out laughing. I'm kidding. Here's his flask. This will piss him off. He always carries this as his good luck charm. He unscrewed the silver cap and drank. Quisanna glanced over as he pulled out the dented Altoids can. Another charm? She asked. This is Corner all over. Thousands of dollars worth of coke in a 50-cent tin. Battling the bad guys calls for a pharmaceutical edge. Maybe I can help kick some Warren ass. He popped the lid on a tin packed with white crystal rocks. Quickly he broke one up between his fingers, popping a chunk under his tongue. You'll need a diversion, otherwise you'll never get past the front door. I can activate the charges. Leave the charges in the satchel, Christina replied, laying a hand on Moore's shoulder. Time for us to play it real cool. Hey, wait a damn minute. I don't have any pants, he exclaimed as though just waking up. Quisanna giggled. Not to worry. Those are the sexiest knees I've ever seen on a white boy. Highway rolled out beneath the tires of the BMW past the false dawn of glowing airport lights. Moore imagined a pair of gray sweatpants Christina had found in the drawers under the mattress. He'd been too busy putting more paint as color on canvas before they left and forgot to grab them. Good to be moving, though, he said, stretching the shoulder harness as he squirmed in the seat. That warehouse had the charm of a tomb. Outside is all this manic energy, hurtling by on wheels and wings. Who needs why? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. Next stop is Vietnam. Hell, just join the fray with a good or bad pair of wheels. He could see Quisanna picking up Christina's expression in the rearview mirror. Turning, he caught a trace of consternation around the mouth. But he was too old for a mama and had enough coke to make it to Venus herself. I like your conundrum of no meaning yes or nothing as everything. What makes Warren's virus so fascinating is the promise of release from the slavery of this subsistence karma. But is the cure worse than the illness? Christina offered. It still comes down to desire. Without the desire to find themselves free, many billions will suffer mightily, Christina replied as she played fingers on his scalp. By educating and training and entrancing the lineage of teachers, then teaching other teachers ad infinitum, we all may turn into awakening of that desiring as to our idealizing a indivisible why of a being seeing invisibility of a peering and gazing it. Any appearing it now out inward, a liberation inwardly discerning ABCs of a being seen, y'all still indivisible invisibility. Captivated a while now, appearing of it, a chintzy, measly, emaciated, thin king of it, why? Out in toward a twisting and twirl, a twin eye of a being seen as existing information. in desire, appearing and gazing it from above, now as below out of her eyes, Zion Eve, Ray buddy. That desire is Paruma's eyes staring out, it out as X, radiating, perceiving her image, you. Sheena finished the sentence, whispering close into him to hear it. The question you asked at your lecture on feeling a being alone. Who doesn't know that feeling? Just never had that simultaneous thought of feeling it as awareness of realizing ourselves a being seen now indivisible. Indivisible. Follow that to a logical conclusion. Y'all talking to yourself, any which old way more amused. Simply a felt fielding of a being seen now a while as somebody or anybody appearing of ABCs appearing out into merely appearing in name alone. Merely a chintzy chiseling, measling, weaseling thinking of it. Why, he chuckled to himself. Yet fully full, why, still asking of it. Why, in a word, freedom, limitless, indivisible, invisibility of a Paramasukadam, Paruma Pharaoh Akit Aten. A Aten domain of it still in the first place, now reduced in word to a pathetic, bent, crippled thinking of it. Why, he shuddered. A feeling, felt fielding, a being seen, appearing and gazing it out alone. Alone as a heartfelt inward field of view. Inward field of view. Page 368. A view of you now appearing out of it in formation, supernaturally, supersonically superimposed, as any thoughts of a great creator God, I say to be letterly, y'all, ABCs. ABCs of a being seen of a hermit, freestanding yod, you now out in a knowing denial of it. Y'all that even in denial of it. It invisibility out in her eyes and Eve, everybody, with desire appearing and gazing it from above as below, of a being seen in a complete indivisible invisibility. Now it seems to me that it is so true how we all positively turn away from that feeling of a being alone. The more y'all feeling alone, the more y'all realizing that indivisible invisibility, he thought, feeling his heart swell till he feared it'd burst. Awareness of that in invisibility. In a word, freedom serves no function, yet there is no function without that awareness of it, he mused. A wave inward function junction within a word freedom awareness of it, a YI merely appearing and gazing it out now as ka, now no, knowing, denial, turning, projecting in toward a twisting into appearing of it, here out in her eyes of Eve, everybody. We all a wheel turning into and out of ignoring it a while. A contagious, cruel, callous deceit as any space in time now, a meanwhile, appearing then disappearing, appearing then disappearing. She not taking it y'all black around as any funny action, Jackson. Quasana kept cracking herself up with the dialectic, surely virally enhanced through the painting of the painting residue on his skin and clothes. Moore felt a profound enhancement merely in toward doing some badass coke, with trouble surely waiting on just us around the corner. Still, it being in the first place, he wondered. Still, moving at 70 miles per hour, motionless compared with the 500,000 miles per hour of our only sun turning, burning, around arcing of it, cosmic galactic whirling center. Billions burning, churning nuclear fire jetting out into that cosmic blackness. Our us only sun, a solar eye appearing and gazing it from above as below out in day, twilight, now daylight. Appearing it our eye, fracted in toward appearing of it out information black around echoing our eye as now, as ka, now knowing out of it anybody or any wanting withered, one thinking of it, why? Still, A being in the first place. Appearing of it out information a while in that deception, at attention captivated in word, in L function. Of a while now, the long or short of it, a mean twin between any greater or lesser of it. How far or how fast can that still awareness go, he wondered. We all, a turning, churning, yearning, burning out of a black around desire, echoing in ABCs of it being seen again. That stillness in the word freedom awareness of it being seen alone, even while knowing, slinging denial out of it any inward betrayal, informing it a while, appearing without or as any desire to realize why all you in the first place, he mused. Come on, baby. Light my fire of desire as X, y'all. Break the chains, understanding that inward spell by being y'all wielding that debatable way of why or why speak in the first place. Why are you or me still indivisible, merely a measly mincing thinking of ABCs, of it being seen now as ka, now knowing, turning out, projecting otherwise. How on earth is that possible in it being seen out in visibility a while of anybody now, ABCs, merely appearing out information in words as though two or more, ignoring one still, una, a being alone in the first place. That I am is now as ka, now turning into or out a means meaningful of it in a word freedom awareness, aware of it being seen in a mirrored mean twin, a being between macro, micro, cosmic memory, while DNA a while. Yet here we all turn around and around, completely enveloped in the engineering mind it takes to move anybody at this velocity, Moore offered out loud. Not to mention the cocaine Christina shot over as she made a lane change. Not to mention that, but come on, we all must turn out of an awesome power to put aside cars and highways, not to mention planets and stars, y'all existing as somehow something's otherwise, as if holding it y'all away in a bubble or a cube, space and time now a while in toward a twisting in twoe away from a being indivisible still in the first place. Still turning, feeling of it alone, just us, any idea of a being separate somehow when in fact we all turn together on this vast planetary system completely engulfed in one cosmic galactic quantum soup. Whose idea was it of appearing out in word as thoughts of a being seen separately in some arbitrary name. Maybe the effects of Warren's virus will be like embracing an old friend, a twin who seems as two been missing. The virus might gather us in closer to awareness of our true, purely indivisible invisibility by dissolving our inward ABC's illusions of a being seen as thoughts of appearing in a word separate. Very touching. That's the thing about being indivisible. That touchy-feely thing seems to refute a being of that, Quisanda interjected. Y'all sense that seamlessly. Any touch is touched of desire or Kali Ma's Ivre body. That y'all have that sense of a being seen touching now, instantaneously anybody or thing within reach, only possible as here out in her eyes, zapping indivisible invisibility as a black around mirror echo. Mirror see as our ideating, perceiving everybody as any instantaneous touching spell, Christina offered from the black seat behind Quisanda's head. Our eye remembering y'all supersonically as X per eye and seeing, merely appearing and gazing it out mirrored, why now you now as anybody in ABCs of a being seen still indivisible invisibility. Any touching of a being touch possible as ABCs mirrored out in words supernaturally, as thoughts learned of a creator God, essay of a Y of you now out as X, y'all, felt feelings as any field of view of you. Any touch is as though contact now potentially possible by a being seen at attention captivated, enthralled supernaturally within word divisions as any thoughts of ABCs, in toward a twisting, in twoe appearing of the indivisible invisibility as zany fire hypersonic impulse of thoughts neurotically transmitted into sensation of ABCs of a being seen, learned mathematically, y'all. Anybody appearing of it now from a rigorous study of ABCs, conceived symbolically, by as ka now knowing, turning that a black round echo of it out in her eyes as leap off a now legend one Ivre body. Moore now studied Quisanda's expression. He still wasn't quite sure if Christina's voice came as sound waves in a space in time or a mere echo of it. Was he learning it in words or picking it up in a word freedom awareness of it? In other words, still at attention, indivisible invisibility and a word freedom now as ka now, knowing, turning it at black around, echoing out supersonically as a knowing projection of it in ABCs, of a being seen out toward a twisting and twirl memory of me or you. Quisanda's expression remained implacable, except for a smile playing the corners of her lips. Now it seemed to more possibilities as Kali Ma's cheering devoured in here her time we all turn into or out of any or a now Y body in our eye, y'all out in her eyes as Ivre body, experienced directly, falling as leap black into a singular indivisible invisibility in a Y eyes, ion potential, appearing it, gazing it in a unconsciousness. A conscious now to be everybody learned to be anybody. As ABCs of a being seen, still invisibility, indivisible. Now, page 370. Now as ka, now no, knowing, projecting, a black around echoing, a black body with the psiho power of intent, in toward a twisting, in toward intentionally disregarding a being seen still indivisible. A disregard of knowing it out, in a denial in ABCs of it invisibility, indivisible, from above as below, still in the first place. Y'all, that appearing of it now, mere supersonic mirroring power of knowing it out as thoughts of it echoing a space in time. A while, a meanwhile, echoing sound, vigorous supersonic waves out as any thoughts of it. In a why I have heard it appearing, it, gazing it now, here out in her eyes, a wave ray black around body. Ain't a why body in a complete rolls of darkness. Perceived arcing of it a why eye, turning to perceive a why now, a scrawny, emaciated, puny, thin king of it. Why? Why? Merely as thoughts of it, gotta say to be letterly, y'all. That letteral covenant with a goddess, say. That letterally covenant with a goddess, say, to be in her eyes leap black. All right, turning into a wave ray as a black around body echoing you as X or a Y, now appearing of it out in word, out information a while now, experiencing touch is mirror or Y now, understanding any spelling of ABC's mirrored Y now, you now, as thoughts of a bios electric neuronic wave function of that cosmic black everybody microwaving a black around echo as touched of it. More perceive Christina disappearing black into one indivisible black around awareness of a being seen now our eye, appearing and gazing it out inward supernaturally as thoughts of a knowing of anybody. Then in that proverbial blink in her eyes, and in toward a twisting and twirl appearing of it, that knowing echo rippled out on sound waves so familiar to his ears in word memory. Thus it now seemed we all, just us, turn into or out of it years, hearing any one sense of the world purely in words, sounds of it. It seeming now to more, we all a will, turning, a knowing out the world in toward a twisting and twirl by a positive denial of a being seen still indivisible, a by now projecting it as thoughts, literally, y'all, a knowing, turning out ABC's echoing of a being seen indivisible invisibility, a DNA, a denial of it in toward that simple twisting and twirl, a duplicating of it by fate, faith, or family. Be fully a reality, our reality, asking of it why, or any measly, chintzy, paltry thinking of it why. Christina added with a laugh. More caught the double entendre, asking of it why, turning now into a knowing out of it, any wanting, wandering thinking of it. Still, it a why I appearing and gazing it out, asking of it why as cosmic memory in toward understanding ABC's supersonic, supernatural spelling of it. Now a knowing out of it into appearing of it from above as below, of a being seen turning inward out as any thoughts of it. Now out superimposed as any knowing of it projecting a black around echo. Echoing the twilight, igniting ignorance of a being still in the first place. Thus, that spelling may only be broken inwardly, y'all, by the hookah, the luca, the buca, libertad por el libro, freedom by the book, or a bucas turning at attention, captivated in word. By realizing it merely appearing at words, yet ABCs, completely aware of awareness in the word freedom, completion. We all, just us, and still turning that black round wave of denial from realizing why, or it now must know our I all, just turning it into a gain. As zany be gaining of it, as thoughts into or out of ABCs, informing it in word. Now turning out of it any knowing, here out in her eyes a while, a black around supernatural, supersonic magic, inward spell. That uncanny spell of denying or knowing, projecting being a lack, necessitating a being a gain, more offered. Denying anybody being black? Christina queried with a frown. A blackness denial as cause of a being seen a gain, only to lose, dust to dust, back to black, a blackness, a black around mirror seas of it, a being lack now intent to be a gain, Margot Christina Shaughnessy replied. Into or out of a black round diamond dust, Christina interjected, smiling with spiraling locks of hair jetting from her scalp. More surmised the greater God's influence in their affairs. Their metaphoric crossing eaves now that our eyes eye and that imaginary line in toward it untwisting unto one in a word freedom awareness of it. It a being still indivisible, invisibility as awareness of it he now intuited. He nearly choked up on the sheer bliss, finding yourself lost in the word freedom, still now a meanwhile functioning as male counterpart between a pairing of femmes fatale. Or picking up on a being seen complete in the first place all along. Moore now found himself in a wide-eyed memory mind, opening, unfolding its wings of perception, soaring at black around a wide-eyed potential in her eyes of everybody now, turning that black around echo, knowing out of it in a day, twilight, igniting fiery supernatural thoughts. Abel as in toward Tutwam Asisyadi Laksham, that I am is in our eye all twinding that simple singular zero as eggs eight twist often a 10 a binary. By now our eyes a one eye is zero, appearing as two in toward a twisting information, a black around echo appearing in twelve, appearing still indivisible. And memory eyes of everybody, a black around now asking of it why a la queen, and K of that in which appearing supernaturally is any thoughts of a gotta say letterly, y'all, a man, his mind, memory, or why inward names. My not me is darkness, he thought. How it seems we all come to think of ourselves in a denial by being seen in name alone. Now that denial still as indivisible invisibility, a being seen appearing and gazing it in the first place. A supersonic, atomic being seen, appearing and gazing now out in her eyes as knowing of any or everybody. A blackness now to be a being seen as king of a why, a knowing out of it out in toward a wild will of DNA, Eve will of denial. More now came black, disappearing into the whole point of view of a why invisibility of a being seen, appearing and gazing it out and toward a twisting and twirl of it inform eyes, anybody still in the first place, yet now as any thoughts of appearing out of it. The will waiting at black around a quantum gravity weight of waiting for Ma's now death. The eyes of a being seen to perceive that are Mr. Reality, asking every why now, as God knowing, turning out of it or into it any bare gaunt thinking of anybody out in a now why body, the while of denial and a why eye of hermit, with a potential polarity on the one hand, still freestanding eye of appearing it from above as below, appearing and gazing it out in day, the why now light, on the other hand, shining into complete darkness, not to be perceived, arcing of it, reality, in cause power of it in her eyes as a black psi whole power as expressing existing information. Now turning into a knowing out of it in her eyes of everybody appearing of it a black around echo of it. The open hand offering any potential of appearing in memory of a polarity in the other, he wondered. Painting Christina now indivisible invisibility of a painting, a sounding board as supersonic silent singing sound, vigorously sounding silent information played on. Page 372. Played on and on, wavery as eve our eyes. A body of anybody, a calming, echoing, a black around, and her voice rippling as cosmic microwaving, black around, echoing it out in her eyes of everybody, turning a black around into her out of itself alone. Alone, indivisible, in a being seen, invisibility of anybody more mused on the nature of a painting as a painting. Warren's viral storm will be another experience, another wily denial as X per eye and seeing in toward it as two a being seen still one that now mirrors ABC's information. In toward as ka now knowing out turning of it anybody as existing information, any meanwhile, as any means of meaning, information of a wily deceit of ABCs, of a being seen still indivisible invisibility, as X tended in toward a twisting of indivisibility supernaturally, y'all, as any thoughts of it appearing, while DNA of a denial of it facing any NY mirrored out in ink as cosmic memory, why now, fate, chance, fortune, destiny from the eye, stare eye, or why story of it appearing and gazing it out in word now, as ka now knowing of it as existing information out in a wily while of a being, seeing invisibility of a peering and gazing it out, invisibility in the or why of a space and time of stars, constellation, galaxies, or viral worms. Christina spoke from the heart of the matter, more sensed it, felt the sound, vigorous waves of it in her eyes, inward spell that seemed to break itself up, coming out through a shimmering electric field of view. Of Hermes, thoughts of it informing you of memory. Now time, Shina dancing, day now, the twilight, Paruma. He watched the light streaming out of Kwasanda's eyes, a visceral, visual, electric ignition of her incognito. What about God? Won't he or she now have something to say in all this? Moore asked as he crushed a thumbnail-sized rock, sprinkling it on a wounded knee. Mind if I turn on the radio? He asked, rubbing the crystal rock powder into traces of blood oozing through the layers of gauze. He stared transfixed by the stream of lights ahead, flashing red and blinking yellow, Fresh reflector stickers zoom by alongside rows of orange cones and iridescent yellow vested highway workers. Yeah, see what you can find on the radio, said Quisanda, glancing over as he tapped some buttons. Why do white Americans love the blues? Blues don't know color, baby, except being blue. But I hear what you're saying. I think the drug laws made outlaws of a lot of regular white folks. They got a little taste of life on the wrong side of what is accepted. Corner and I jumped over there. He found himself a sanction for his sinning. I stumbled into it, got lucky, found myself lost as a complete being. A being not to be possessed, not a being possessing me. His speech halted as he realized the sisters weren't listening. They seemed attuned in silence. He punched through the radio band until he found some jazz and blues. A wolf growled from the speakers. A voice like a hurricane through a straw. A gut bucket cry that could only come from a black man in 1940s America. Jim Crow's apartheid America of strange fruit hanging. Wolf brought the loners and losers together. Moore rolled his fist with the downbeat. Wolf freed his primal juice. He could feel it bubbling up as he gulped for air. Calling me on my telephone. I'm so worried. Tell him I'm not at home. You can wrap the human spirit in chains, toss us into the deepest pit, and still we rise, he howled into the wind. Okay, you old hippie hound dog, we's in the 21st century now. Here, man gave me this disc a while back, said I'd know when to play it, so here goes. So, who is this on the disc? He asked as Kusana slipped a CD into the slot. Don't ask. No time to explain. Just listen, she said, adjusting the volume as she gave him a sideways glance. Okay, that's some opera in Italian, I believe, she said, popping the disc back out. Holding it up to the light, she saw some writing in felt-tip marker. Here, you read that. Kusana tossed him the disc. She asleep back there? Asleep or meditating. You can't tell unless she's snoring. Verdi's Aida. It's about a man who loves a slave girl and as a result is betrayed by a jealous princess, Moore replied with a shrug. Put it back in. Maybe there's more to it. She tapped her fingernails on the top of the steering wheel. You know the story? Slave girl and jealous princess fight over virile army captain. Yeah, sounds familiar, he replied as mezzo-soprano tore loose with anguish. Slave girl and princess. Quisanda wondered out loud as she lowered the volume. Highway 101 crested the broad slope of Potrero Hill. The skyline of downtown San Francisco sparkled through its evening silhouette. The truncated tip of the pyramid pointed to heaven above North Beach rooftops. Are we moving too fast? Moore asked, turning in his seat. Christina's eyes flashed with the headlights pouring past. Quisanda exited the freeway at 5th and King. As they stopped at a light, he surveyed blocks of future high-rise condos, now skeletons of 2x8 fir lumber framing around mats of rebar, invading, gentrifying a once decrepit low-rent part of town. Their lane made 3 green lights as they reached a corridor of cottonwood trees with broad leaves colored with light candy. Through a stand of palms in front of Oracle Park, he watched baseball's Willie Mays forever dropping his bat behind crouched bronze legs, eyes following an invisible chunk of rawhide sailing beyond the fences. Columns of light taunted the shadows that drifted out to the lattice of green steel light towers above the red brick walls. Beyond the stadium, their view opened as they passed under the Bay Bridge. Spanning open water, parallel suspension cables dipped, stretching out between black and silver towers, marching to Treasure Island, then onto Oakland. Moore remembered this area before the Loma Prieta earthquake brought the Central Freeway down, breaking the concrete yoke choking the waterfront. Hard to believe that tons of concrete and smog buried this waterfront for 30 years, Moore offered. Now you can actually see that clock tower of the ferry building. What a shame it was hidden by elevated freeway for decades. Such a great landmark. A lone waterfront survivor of the 1906 earthquake. It's the last standing intact landmark in many of the old photos of the leveled city. A ferry gateway to the city. I mean, think about it. Before the bridges, ferries were the only approach from the north or east. This building was the landing place for most anyone heading here. Gateway to Fairy World, San Francisco. Feel her chill breath, this stained saint, he said as he poked his head out. She gave us dreams of solving her mystery. I remember wandering up and down her streets till many a sunrise, pounding them 7 hills, 7 sisters now, barely breathing through all this steel and concrete. With enough bone chill and exhaustion, you can hear 'em, the sisters, whispering in the fog, dancing up those skyscraper corridors, and falling back down to the bay. Coroner is here, I can feel him. Moore jerked in his seat, pushed against the door, then went back to scanning the rear and the side view mirror. Lights came up as day fled into night. Or is it bled into night, Moore wondered. They approached the ferry building, a farmer's market, enlivening its interior. Out front, a double concourse of royal palms spread 50 feet above 4 lanes of car and truck traffic split by a trolley line. Antique iron cars packed with commuters, tourists, and transients rumbled past. Do you see his car? Quisanda asked. Only me rambling. I'd be more scared, except I'm buzzing with this Cuervo and cocaine. Look here at how people carry on their mundane lives like nothing is happening. Maybe nothing is happening. Some are so bent with the weight, and others look like they could sail off. Throw off your shackles, brothers and sisters. St. Francis will set you free. He dipped another rock and another swig from the flask. Slow down, painter, said Quisanda. The pyramid is only a few blocks from here. Christina, you and Dark stay with the car while I check out the security. I have to go. He wants me. Best to meet the tiger head on, Christina replied. I will deal with Warren, and you look out for Corner. Blobs of fogged light blurred the evening street. Quisanda pulled to the curb. Headlights streamed in the rearview mirror as she turned into the seat, pulling a cell phone from her pocket. Christina leaned forward, putting arms over Moore's shoulders. I don't believe you, she whispered in his ear. This will only call me. Just tell us when and where to enter, and good luck, Quisanda said, pressing the phone into the professor's hand. Christina stepped from the BMW. Keep each other safe, she replied. He watched her walk toward the lobby doors and into the radiance of honey-colored interior. For then I would have to let you go, he muttered under his breath. In the side view mirror, he saw a sleek blazered security agent with thick mustache approach their vehicle, the bulk of a handgun pressed under his navy blue blazer. Into the embrace of the father and the lair of the beast, Quisanda replied as she pulled away from the curb. Would have to be that building, he said, craning his neck. I just can't help feeling this connection with the Illuminatus vision that had me only a few blocks from here. A pyramid. The only modern pyramid skyscraper in the world. It's spooky, no pun intended. Quisanda kept her eyes on the street. Headlights drifted in and out of her mirrors. No spookier than that disc. The Verde? You still got that slave girl and the betrayal on your mind? Hell, I don't know. Watching her stroll inside, I kept getting the snagging sensation, like I should get out while the getting is good, she said, waiting for a light. May the saint protect you both, but I want you to protect me, he replied. I know that's selfish of me, you with a daughter, and Maybe you should run. Just get out. These blocks are falling anyway. Why get crushed underneath? You really think she'll betray us? Christina spoke, followed by a long silence. They drove west on Washington Street. Through the crowded avenues near Portsmouth Square, people drifted in waves broken by slow-moving vehicles. Moore fingered the plastic CD case. A sharp metallic taste made him drop it on the floor. A spread of wings filled his vision, his focus drawn into a disc glowing with a red light out of the center of his head, moved to its outline propped on the coiled tails of a pair of hooded serpents that turned towards him. The image scrolled on with borders of hieroglyphs, interspersed with gods and goddesses of the Egyptian pantheon. These images, men with heads of jackals, rams, dogs, and ibis hawks, seared his inner mind. Now he found himself a seer, seen in the eye, appearing and gazing at still a being seen. Indivisible invisibility. A wide eye of a being seen of that awareness that I am is. The seer beer, that of one who sees in her eyes, for Ivre being still, y'all. Yet a not Ivre, now a wave, mirrored a black around, knowing of it then. Out in word to be seen supernaturally as any thoughts of it information. Ivre, body of a being, that indivisible seer. A being seeing invisibility of anyone who sees, appearing and gazing it out of it, yet as any thoughts of Fielding that felt a wild body now, as then Ariel turning a black and blue, in the sweet melancholy of it in her eyes, as singing that sad song, y'all night long, holding her to let her go, of a gaining in love only to lose in death, the bittersweet of it. A little while of it can go a long ways now out of it. A black around asking of it why, knowing of the dialectic more, found himself that in a being seen in the word freedom awareness. A freedom still in the first place, indivisible invisibility of any individual. When we all turn into a black around as leap black into a unconscious now essay to be anybody out information, he found himself suddenly wide awake. We are remembering ourselves, aren't we, all turning supernaturally into or out of a being indivisible invisibility? Something about her eyes, on Ivre, buddy. Ariel. Still, a being in her eyes, invisibility of Ivre, body.